Hi, this is the Voice of Heidie Calero with another economic capsule on Puerto Rico. Well, this capsule is going to be interesting because we are going to be asserting, or at least illustrating, two banking eras. Back in 2001, 20 years ago, and today, 2021. Don't forget, those of you who like our capsules, to give us a like and to subscribe in YouTube under the Voice of Heidie Calero. The first table that we are illustrating here depicts what happened in how many banks Puerto Rico had. Back in the third quarter of 2001, we had 12 banks. And if we go back in time, we used to have almost 14 banks, commercial banks, including Chase Manhattan Bank, Bank of America, foreign banks such as Royal Bank of Canada. We had Scotia Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia, and we had Citibank. We still do have a little bit of Citibank, but it's just a niche here. Now we have three banks. 20 years down the road, enormous consolidation in terms of the commercial banks in Puerto Rico. Let's look at the trends in assets, loans, deposits, profits, and what is happening with loans as a percentage of those assets. Well, back in 2001, these 12 banks had total $57.8 billion in assets. We had $32 billion in loans. That's almost 5.9% of assets were in loans. And in deposits, we had close to $35 billion. Net income, profits, $440 million. And the Puerto Rico economy at that time, in current prices, was $45 billion. So commercial banks with $57.8 billion in an economy of $45 billion. So tremendous activity in terms of the commercial banks. Fast forward 20 years. Now, this third quarter of 2021, the latest figures, as I said before, we have three banks. Only three banks left in Puerto Rico, with a niche of Citibank, only serving very high-end consumers, and Banesco, which is another foreign bank, but again, they are very small compared to the other three banks. Well, in total assets, it's $96 billion. It's almost 60 to 70% more than 20 years ago. In loans, close to the same amount. Wouldn't you say? $32.6 billion, $33.6 billion, whereas before we used to have $32.3 billion. So even 20 years have elapsed and loans have really barely moved the needle. In deposits, we have $87 billion, and there's a story with COVID 2020 in there, which I will explain now. And net income, $670 million in the third quarter of 2021. Loans as percentage of assets have been going down to almost 35% compared to the 56% 20 years ago, when we had 12 commercial banks in Puerto Rico, and the Puerto Rico economy growing and almost $70.7 billion in current prices. So yes, it has been an increase in the economy, but still the commercial banks are much higher in terms of the total assets. In terms of the rate of growth, yes, assets have been increasing at 2.6%. Notice that the Puerto Rico economy in current prices, not in real terms, but in current prices, growing almost in tandem, 2.3%. But notice that those deposits were growing even at a faster clip on an annual basis, 4.7%. And what is related to that increase in deposits? Well, 2020 had a lot to do with that, the COVID-19, because Congress approved back in March of 2020 to really see if they could put together this economy that was sort of disintegrating because of the COVID epidemic and was in a shutdown mode. It was a package of $2.2 trillion. That's a lot of zeros, down the road. So Part of that money also came to Puerto Rico in terms of assistance. And then in 2021, we had the American Rescue Plan Act with another $1.9 trillion. So, and that included expanded unemployment benefits at least through September of this year. It sent like $1,400 to people who qualified under certain income levels. It provided tax credits to employers who kept their employees. It extended the expiration for the increase in food stamp benefits. It offered tax benefits. It offered the PPP loans, which many businesses really were able to get a hold of because the economy was closed and with the shutdown of the COVID-19. So lots of things happening. All that money came to Puerto Rico, part of that money, and part of that money was siphoned through deposits in the commercial banks. And that's why you see that these deposits have been growing so much, and also with all these businesses receiving monies to maintain their businesses, they also headways to deposits. Then finally, let's look at the commercial and industrial loans, because we always talk about the real economic activity. That's agriculture, it's construction, it's services, it's something tangible. Whereas this thing of the financial world, well, it's money. After all, what's money? Paper. Well, the two worlds have to be together, because without financing, we cannot really have real activity. So this is an important sector, and let's look at commercial industrial loans, because those are the ones that really will be heading to real economic activity. And what we see there from third quarter 2001, the blue line is the commercial, industrial, and agricultural loans, and agriculture is very small. Back in 2006, they peaked at $15.8 billion. But notice that blue line going down. And right now we have somewhere in the region of $3.9 billion. That's not really helping move the needle to help Puerto Rico in terms of economic growth. But notice, consumer loans, they have been in that band that you see there in orange, the line, and then the two bands. They have more or less stayed the same, COVID or no COVID, with $7.2 billion in 2006, and now almost $6 billion in 2021. The result of all this is the next graph, which is the profits, the net income of commercial banks. And notice there that overall it's been on the positive side. Yes, they did go down with the 2008 to 2010 global financial crisis. Notice the crash that we see there, and even negative in almost 2 years there, those quarters, and these are all third quarters, so as to make a comparison. But now it's been heading upwards again, and it's now $669 million. Not yet the levels before 2006, but heading into to the north. So this is a story of 12 banks in Puerto Rico 20 years ago. Now only 3 banks in Puerto Rico with so many assets, but not enough in terms of these commercial and industrial loans. So more money is coming into Puerto Rico. We need these banks, the financial sector, to really focus on those loans that will generate the economic activity that we need to grow and be on positive territory. Don't forget, the economy is all of us. Thank you.